Welcome back to the Hold the Standard podcast, where we are exploring how choosing leadership allows us to navigate the human experience with agency and provides a pathway to meeting our potential. It's our belief that our greatest life challenges will require more leadership than is currently present. So our duty is to build that capacity together. Today's episode is featuring chef Brian Bornemann, whose success as a restaurateur speaks for itself. Naturally, we're not here to wax on about delicious food necessarily, but when I asked Brian if he'd sit down with me for a podcast, he was adamant that he had something specific he wanted to discuss. When he mentioned that he wanted to talk about nourishment, I knew he wasn't talking about nutrition facts. Okay, this was a lifestyle conversation, and it's extremely timely. In our work in the Leadership Laboratory, we reference Sarah Baldwin's framework for understanding our central nervous system. And here's the deal. Most leaders are suffering from living in a stress response that has untold consequences. And Brian's awareness around this topic is refreshing and important. If you're in leadership, you're going to want to create awareness around how to take care of yourself. Literally, all of your goals depend on this. Ladies and gentlemen, here is Brian Bornemann. Enjoy. Awesome. Let's jump right into it. I actually teased the conversation with you, and I already realized my ignorance is strong. I am genuinely curious about this. What's up with I guess we're calling it a dry-aged scene in fish? I know that that's something that's showing up on menus around here. I know you might have feelings about who's doing that well.
Yeah.
What is it? What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, basically, there's a couple different ways to talk about it. Some people say dry aging. Some people are calling it conditioning. I think, we're all want for a buzzword, especially in the media world and the
No idea what you're talking
about. the eater world. But realistically, all we're talking about is storing fish correctly. Zooming out, this was taught to me back in probably 2017 when I was running a hotel. Didn't have enough time to butcher my own fish, and eventually had to hire this 85-year-old sushi chef to come in and do most of the heavy fish lifting. And he just got us to start hanging fish by the tail after we take the scales off with a Japanese knife. I'm gonna try to keep this
yeah.
But anyway.
No one could possibly care about this as much as I know about this.
But basically, you're taking something out of the ocean if it was harvested correctly or sent off correctly, meaning it didn't go through too much stress before it was killed. Then, as long as it never touches tap water and it never you don't break the skin, you can hang a fish by the tail for a very, very long time.
Is that right?
Yeah, so I've served 3-week-old rockfish that's just been hanging that whole time to I did this for an event for 300 people on Huntington Beach Pier. It was 3-week aged rockfish.
And that doesn't change the letter that they put in the window at all?
No, not at all. No, because so simply put, the goal is moisture loss.
Okay.
Moisture is water. Water has no flavor. Fish has flavor if it wasn't killed incorrectly. 99% of fish die through suffocation. Which is a terrible process, and as you can imagine, makes fish just go fishy really quickly. And 99% of the fish in the world are handled by a large. First of all, there's industrial fishing, and second of all, there's industrial fish processing, which is just trying to move as much units as possible. And so we're treating it a lot like a terrestrial thing, but it's just not, right? For example, a lot of restaurants that I started cooking in, you would just store fish side by side or on their skin or something. and you would always notice that like the skin side would deteriorate and start to break down faster than the side that wasn't touching something.
Okay.
That's because fish skin has this innate thing that if it starts touching something, it just starts decomposing the flesh. Because the only time fish skin would touch something is if it was dead at the bottom of the ocean.
Bad, yeah.
Yeah, like if you're like fish skin never touches anything but water.
Fish skin touching stuff, bad.
Bad.
Fish skin
So
swimming, good.
yeah, exactly. Oh, I love this. This is the true sense of Lincoln here.
I mean, it's this or clanging weights or F-bombs or chains. So this is part of the experience.
But at any rate, yeah, trying to stay as not technical as possible, but you're looking to lose moisture in the fish. You're also just looking to extend the shelf life of the fish by making sure the skin isn't touching anything. So by hanging it by the tail, it will, like, first of all, harvest it correctly, then scaled with a knife instead of a scaler, because the scaler creates 1,000 little, it creates 1,000 little micro abrasions in the skin. So it looks like skin, but there's actually like the bacterial plane is broken, and so bacteria can get in there. So if you use a knife to take off the scales instead, the skin's intact. Water can go out through the skin, but no bacteria can get in. So in that process, you're hanging, it's not deteriorating, it's losing moisture, and as long as all the steps are followed and you kept the bacterial plane of the fish there, like the fish we get in are very mucusy and just like, you know, properly just out of the ocean. So you just don't want to fuck with that. And tap water is like the worst thing for that.
Yeah, why is that? Just because tap water is bad?
No, I mean, it's just not ocean water, right? Like it's like
not a thing that it's
exactly like we got to treat these things like animals from a different world,
right?
And like, cause they are. And like, we just think like, you know, like so many chefs, anybody, they're just like treat it like chicken or broccoli or something like terrestrial.
Yeah.
And they're just very different.
That's cool.
Yeah.
In my mind, and forgive me if I've made all this up in my mind, there's this extra elite underground scene in LA where there's like the guy who has the fish hanging the right way in the right place. Is that going on, or people are doing this themselves, or both, or?
There's definitely some jostling in terms of the hierarchy of correctness of technique, if you know what I mean. And shade gets thrown big time.
Dude,
names will not be dropped.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, like that's all just like self-promotion and marketing and just like shade. Like the reality is, if you are hand scaling a fish that was killed properly and you hang it by the tail, you're totally fine. Like it's not that hard. Right. It's just like understanding the steps and not fucking it up. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for playing ball on that.
That's my favorite subject. I can keep going forever.
Yeah. So I guess that kind of like interesting segue. It's your favorite subject. Obviously, restaurateur, chef, not your first rodeo. You've been doing a lot. Fish is a theme. Yeah. Did that come first, or are you? You know what I mean? Is the restaurant more of an expression of your specific interest, or is this one of many interests? Like, tell me a little bit about like how you got to where you're at.
Yeah, I mean, basically, you know, I fell in love with food in Italy. I grew up here in LA, and so my idea of Italian food was very skewed. And so it was like when I actually like went to Sicily, went to Rome, and I was like, oh, there's something to this, right? Like. This is very different than how we think about it. So long story short, I just started working in these, I tucked my way in the back door of a couple Italian kitchens, and they were just very old school. It was not farm to table. It was not local. There were no buzzwords about it. It was just like guy hunted wild boar, hunted venison, made olive oil from his yard, made grappa from his, you know, in his house. Just because that's how you do things. It wasn't like for show. It was just like, this is how we make food, you know, like
magazine to get in.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's just like, no, I just do this, you know? And it was so natural and the process so like obvious, you know, how like entrenched that was culturally and how obvious that was to him. So anyway, flash forward, by the time I'm chefing, right? Like actually like running kitchens. I'm running Italian places here in LA, and we're importing the best truffles and the best Parmesan and this 36-month, you know, Vacca Rossa and like just it felt like this weird competition to prove who could import like more stuff. And I'm like, this is not why I do this. Like, the beauty of it was, you know, Marco taking like literally animals and herbs and stuff from his yard and around him and putting it together in a simple, thoughtful way and then feeding people. Like that was the goal, was just like nourishment through cultural richness easily, you know? And so that import, like, you know, that's what I loved about Italian food. It wasn't the actual dishes. It wasn't the actual like replication of who's got the best carbonara or the best truffles or whatever. Like that just bores me.
Yeah.
Especially when you can go to Rome and get, you know, it for €8 instead of 33.
Right.
So that kind of like inspiration, coupled with my kind of training as a butcher, you know, butchery of whole pigs, whole lamb, like all that was always what I did. First, and
like from a young age, like where does that start?
No, just starting in the kitchen.
Okay.
You know, like you start with simpler pieces and like you just show proficiency and you move up. And I was just lucky to work in like really old school farm to table places where there was no like delivery from a purveyor. Like we just got shit from a ranch and we just did it.
Right.
You know, or like the first place, like where we literally just hunted wild boar and that's what we used, you know? So I just always sought out those places where butchery was the key to menu creation. And then like, you know, started falling in love with fish, been becoming a fish cook at the same time. Just because fish is like so fucking delicate and like requires so much more finesse than like a pork chop or a steak or, you know, so it just, that finesse really attracted me.
It's like a push of the skill component. Was that the attraction? Like, oh, this is finer skill.
Yeah, because you got seconds to plate it instead of minutes to rest. You know, like it was like just the progression of skill, the finesse, the attraction to like the timing element, I guess, but also like respect of ingredient. It's like, oh, this is like where it's at. You know, is fish.
There's so many coincidentally conversations that we've had on this podcast with chefs and whatnot. And one of the themes that comes up is this sort of like sharing of knowledge, almost like this apprenticeship type thing. And
I think so, I remember you talking to Naisha about this.
So talk to me about that. Is there like a world where someone like yourself could garner the skill set without like mentors along the way? It seems like everybody has this person who is bestowing knowledge, and that was that your experience of the kitchen culture coming up? It's literally
that's the difference between like gaining actual skills and not, right? Like there's anybody can like literally anybody can put food on a plate and sell it for money, but how you get there is what defines like the depth of knowledge, and like how somebody actually is able to, how you're able to create a menu through your technique is what defines you. And so like, my first like chef in America was in Colorado, Tennessee guy named Chris Bell, and had a great sous chef and had a great chef owner, and they like literally taught me like, hey, this is how you break down a whole pig, this is how you do this is how you sear scallops, this is you know. And so you just start slowly accumulating knowledge, and I just always got to be I was lucky enough to be mentored by people who were smart and quick learners and realized that I was a quick learner, and like, you know, I'll show you this and then go do it. So that was great. And just getting to like, that's why, you know, butchery is the foundation of like everything I've done, because that was the kind of how you defined like, this is how we make a menu over the course of a week rather than just a day. Like today we sell the pork loin, tomorrow we sell the braise on tagliatelle, the next day we make a, you know, pork pig head tostata, like that becomes so.
I'm realizing as you're talking, because you said the word chef owner, that's not always the case, right? I mean, this dual hat thing, and you're doing that, and that probably feels like, I mean, like, there's the big sigh, right? It's hard, you know? I mean, well, I remember growing up, like, not even yelling about wanting to be an entrepreneur, but somehow these, like, 3 things enter your brain, like, as a kid, like, stay in school, have your vitamins. Don't open a restaurant. You know what I mean? Like it's like you're doing both, which is rare. Is that like, is that a dual hat thing? You turn one on, you turn one off. Like, how do you, what do you think about that?
I think, the word chef literally just means boss. It has nothing to do with cooking, right?
Okay.
In the French economy,
I was going to ask
you have a chef of agriculture, you have a chef of commerce, you have, that's what the word actually means. So the chef is just the boss.
Okay.
And so in that way, I don't view it as a duality thing. It's however, if the owner is not a chef and they hire a chef to do that, and you're the employee doing that, your restrictions can be such that you're only able to control the kitchen staff, or but realistically, if you're a chef at all, you're thinking, I need to control all of it. Like, that's just like the mindset.
Yeah.
I gotta make sure this is dropped right at the table, this is bussed right, that people, you're thinking about the whole experience.
Yeah, that's not what I expected with the term, actually. Let's see if the question still works.
Let me put it this way. I think, and I've said this for years, being a cook and being a chef are totally unrelated jobs.
Okay, we're getting
and one does not prime you for the other one, and vice versa. So you can have people who are actually great chefs that are not great cooks. They're gonna be fine cooks, and you can have fantastic cooks that cannot be chefs.
Okay.
And the difference is just knowing how to inspire, motivate, coach, counsel others in order to get what you want done.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with cooking, right?
Yeah, that's more like a leadership thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, tell me if this resonates, and if not, there's nothing there. But it seems very teed up to be much like my industry, where, a lot of people throw around the C word. I'm a coach, you're a coach, everybody's a coach. And then I reflect on my career, and I think that there's transformative parts of our life where you look back in history and you can't really say, what was the day you became a coach? Right? There is no one day, right?
Right.
And so surely people, maybe it's myself, maybe other people, were calling me coach before that was true by some sort of arbitrary metric.
Yeah.
Do you look back on your path and it's like, is there a clear moment where you started identifying as a chef? You felt like you reached some sort of thing, or?
Yeah. I mean, I think honestly, like, we all have imposter syndrome, ongoing in different ways over time. And so, like, as you start getting called something, you're like, oh, am I a thing?
Yeah. I appreciate you saying that.
But I think honestly, like, one of the hardest times in my life that also provided the most growth in terms of being a chef in the way that I just described, where like you're getting the result by not using your hands, was when I was 26, got thrown into this leadership role, running a big place here in Venice, and fell running. My knee got ripped open. And so for 3.5 months, I could not walk, and I'd just been promoted to the point where I'm expediting, I'm like doing stuff, but I always used to run around and be like, oh, I see the halibut sauce is getting fucked up. I'm gonna fix it before it goes out. And so then I had to be like, fuck, like I literally have to do this all through my voice. Like, this has got to happen, and I cannot touch anything that's happening. Like, I can't butcher anymore. I can't fix that sauce. I can't run around. Wow. Like, when you can't bend your knee, you can't do anything.
Yeah.
So I think that was kind of the point where I was like, okay, like, let's refine the toolbox. It's not the knife. It's not the peeler. It's not the sharpener. It's, inspiration or sometimes a little humiliation. Like, it's like just a different toolbox
metaphor for that transformation. Yeah. Wow. That's incredible. I've told this story to our staff before. Coaches and leaders in really any discipline make that young leader mistake often of trying to do too much and say too much and control too much. And, in your case, you had this like physical ailment that forced you to adapt your leadership style. I observed early in my career at a coaching seminar, which is like seeking missile for like narcissists and egos. And it's like everybody in the room is sort of side-eyeing each other to answer the unspoken question, which is who's the best coach here. And so what that looks like is everybody's performing poorly because they're saying too much and overreaching and trying to do too much. And unequivocally, the best coach in the room by performance ended up being this Italian guy.
Wait, how is this determined?
I'm just saying.
Oh, to you.
Upon reflection.
Yeah. Got it.
One guy stood out.
Okay.
And I think anybody would agree, because this guy, amongst all the guys who couldn't and gals couldn't stop running their mouth and trying to overcoach and flex, got dominated by this guy who the constraints were not a broken knee. This guy had such limited English that when he spoke, we all sort of like sat on the edge of our seat. And he would say, look for me. And we're all, a fucking pin could drop, dude. And he's like the most captivating public speaker in the room, simply because he was limited and couldn't do too much, you know what I mean? And he's sort of forced to rely on these other elements of his coaching, you know, and is like a similar environment, you know, where.
Yeah, I think that's a very important part of being a leader and keeping your sanity is, how do I put this? Like just viewing your limitations as strengths. Like it is so easy to be handed, like in my case, the best kitchen in the world or the, you know, a full staff or whatever, and constantly be thinking like, oh, I wish this was different, or I wish I could have this, or I can't do my job to my fullest because I'm missing this. And the alternative of that mindset is these limitations are creating a safe space for me to work within confidently.
Yeah. That's such great advice. And that's like how art works. You know, it's like the constraints of the canvas, so to speak, the constraints of the materials you have.
It's a blessing. It's not a constraints are not like a curse, you know?
That was our whole thing here with, you know, choosing a core competency of like, we're going to compete against no one on a coaching experience. Some could look at that as like this, I don't know, elitist, you know, choice or something like that. And it's has more to do with the fact that we can't afford a nice gym. You know what I mean? It's like, this is a 100-year-old garage. It's just never going to be Equinox. So we're not going to try to compete in an area that like millions of dollars would require us to compete.
And the wasted energy that you would spend trying to think about what you don't have there, or your inability to compete with an Equinox.
Totally.
It just eats away at you, right? So it's just like, be who we are.
Is that?
Don't frustrate yourself in that gap.
Totally. Yeah. Is that part of the, if I remember correctly, part of the origin story of Crudo, right? It's like limitations of what was possible in the kitchen sort of created the fact that like, oh, we're going raw fish, we're whatever, and then it becomes like the strength of the place in a lot of ways.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like literally, you know, I was fortunately already like known for doing Crudo, so it was like an easy jump. But at the time, like the point was, you had to be mobile. If you remember, this is like, it's crazy that this happened, but like, you didn't want to be indoors, and so like the only way people would eat in public was outdoors
during COVID.
Yeah. And so we would show up and with a folding table and a cooler of fish and a cutting board, and it hit all the marks. We were not inside. We were super mobile. There was no heat needed. Like we could show up in bars where there was no kitchen, and like you know, like you could like do it anywhere. And so that limitation became the defining, like, oh, this is like what we're good at. And it can be better than anybody else at, because nobody else is dumb enough to try this.
That's right. So cool. Yeah, I remember having your guys' delicious food at that thing across from Townhouse, those pop-ups during COVID, you know, and now we got to meet each other later, you know.
That's funny.
So part of what I've been excited and we've talked offline about this is sort of understanding the stark difference between getting full and nourishment, you know, and those differences. You also sort of are living a lifestyle that I notice that some of the best chefs in the world are shifting towards, some of the best performers in any discipline are shifting towards, which is a more holistic, health oriented way of being. You know, you have a well-defined movement practice and breath work and ice and sauna exposure and meditation and all these things. And, you know, I think if we look on a whole at chefs and the hospitality industry 10, 20, 30 years ago, it's like, it's almost like it seemed like there was a pride in how unhealthy it could be, you know?
Totally.
And so,
and honestly, like, you know, the romanticization of it by Anthony Bourdain and others, of like, it's like swashbuckling pirate. Like, I'm so good at my job and so bad at everything else in life, was like part of like the point of pride.
Yeah, totally.
You know, and it's like so not good.
Comedy was like that. You know, comedy is like, look at how brutal I am, and that's part of the shtick. Yeah. And it's shifted as well, you know. So
yeah. I mean, I think it's really, I think, you know, thinking about it as nourishment can be movement, it can be what you eat, it can be, you know, how you structure your week, like any of those things can be used as a tool of nourishment or self-destruction, right? You can work out to the point where you're just fucking tearing shit, and like, you know, the gym can be self-destructive, your food can be self-destructive, your love of your passion turning into a job that you work at so much that you just don't have sheets on your bed, and like you're just like, you know, not taking care of yourself at home.
Literally no.
So yeah, anything like with anything in excess, obviously, or like just done in a way that's not actually nourishing to your body, can be detrimental. And like I think that's why I like that word nourishment. It's like you have it's really helpful to think about, is this nourishing me right now, or like, do I need to tweak this?
Is that like a constant check-in for you? Like, I think a lot of people would hear what you just said and like nod in agreement, you know, but like we're all pretty green at that. You know, I don't know if anybody's nailing it. What's your process been like with that? Is it, I mean, unfortunately it's largely messing it up, that like well, a lot of us learn how to do it better, but have you been pretty like proactive on that, always ahead of it? Or?
No, I think testing your boundaries, whether consciously or unconsciously, has you run into some walls and like learn lessons the hard way, but that's the easiest way to remember the lessons.
This gnarly strength coach, may he rest in peace, Louis Simmons, has this quote that says, the only way to learn how much salt is too much salt is to put too much salt on your food. So the testing the limit of
exactly. So yeah, I think that's how you kind of get to the point where you can recognize what's nourishing to you or not, is like, oh, this is the feeling of pushing a limit, of going too far, of, you know, even doing something I love so much that I then am not taking care of myself. And so, that's why I think we love to like compartmentalize and like break down things in our culture, like just American, like optimizational culture. So it's like, how many nutrients are in your lunch? How many like reps are you doing at the gym? Like, it's always like counting, you know, to optimize. Like,
everybody's obsessed with
and I think oftentimes that is actually the opposite of what is nourishing, right? It's like that the desire to optimize constantly can be sickening sometimes.
I don't know how many artful chefs are counting their macros, right? seems at odds with the craft, you know.
I think that, you know, obviously there's good to knowing where you're at and like keeping track of like what's going in and everything, but I think just in general, like how do I say this? Like, what is going to make you perform at your best creatively, physically, etc., might not be spending all of your time trying to optimize.
Totally.
It might just be like an intuitive listening thing that like I think often optimization gets in the way of.
Yeah. I mean, talking to myself right now as I say this, I think a lot of folks who index quite high on logical, brained, optimization oriented quantifiers, you know, those people are sort of justifying an ineffective behavior a lot by the justification is, well, because performance or because efficacy.
Yeah.
And that works until it doesn't. So
Exactly.
a lot of times the best way to convince people like myself or others who are sort of failing this espoused intention, is sort of using that logic against them. It's like, oh, so you don't sleep at night and you burn the candle from both ends because you want to do more?
Mm-hmm.
Can you show me the evidence? Because it seems like you're out of the game right now, right? You're playing with a C+. Prove it, and it's like, oh shit. Like if my justification for being over indexing on these categories is not getting me remarkable results, then I have to revisit.
Mm-hmm.
I have to revisit my process, and maybe it looks like a quality over quantity perspective in some categories.
Yeah, I think that's great. And the quality might not always be countable.
Yeah.
I think this is kind of like where I see like the biggest need in like our society compared to like a lot of other, not that I'm over romanticizing like other places in the world, but cultures where the way that you eat, how you eat, and like what you eat has like a richer depth of history.
Yeah.
Generally are they're not overthinking like what goes in or how you eat or whatever, because there's just enough culture and enough richness of history to provide some like really safe ways to enjoy what you're doing. If you are like, if you can just enjoy what you eat, like truly, and like not like, I'm not saying like you love Skittles, like eat 3 bags, right? Like I'm saying like it has to be good whole food, like stuff that is actually has nutrients in it. But if you can enjoy that, and that might be by yourself, but hopefully it's with others, that is really the key. It's just like more enjoyment rather than more counting.
Yeah. I bet doing as much travel as you've done, it might be almost disappointing at like how quickly Americans eat, probably sort of observing this thing like, could you guys just like slow down a sec?
Yeah. And if you read, like Tim Ferriss or like, there's plenty of people who break down why it's good to eat more slowly. Mm-hmm. But again, I think even the breakdown of it is like a little bit overthinking. It's like just eating with others in conversation, and not like packing a lunch that's exactly 350 calories and like snacking on it between things, like not viewing food so much as fuel that you need, but as something that like you ought to enjoy, is really the only difference there. It's like when you like make time and make that a cultural priority to enjoy food with others, take time, and like digest slowly, eat slowly, digest slowly, like that's why people are always trying to like figure out like, why is the Mediterranean diet so good? Is it the tuna? Is it the Revesterol? That one glass of red wine?
It's the conversation.
It's just the fact that they like just enjoy it. Like there's no one ingredient or one combination of it's the olive oil plus the broccoli plus the tuna plus the fish. It's like, no, it's just, it's nice. It's just enjoyable. And if we like took that kind of like non-measurable enjoyment lesson a little more seriously, I think we could all slow down and have a little more fun.
Intangible. That's a good call to action. I need to hear that. We had, I'm curious about your process around like seeking more enjoyment and what that looks like for you. We had Nick Monica on from Companion, and he was talking. Yeah, he's a great guy. And he was saying something that I resonated with, which was sort of like, earlier on in his progression, which he's really young and he's still early in his thing, but earlier on he was like maybe mistaken in his desire to like do so many projects, and now he's kind of like, maybe a restaurant or 2 is enough, and I resonate with that as like, having 3 gyms at one point, and it's just like, what does a nourishing life look like from that perspective? I can only imagine being a restaurateur in this city, in this state, in this country, in this time period, that the idea of like doing more for the sake of more is a trap that can be tough.
Oh, totally. And it's, again, like if you're counting and like optimizing, there you can see the benefit to it. I just had to close a restaurant because the juice was not worth the squeeze, right? And so that desire to
so good,
thank you.
It was so good.
Yeah, I loved it, and the product was great and I loved doing it. But at the end of the day, it wasn't able to nourish me because of some physical challenges that were just not going to change.
Yeah.
And so in that way, like that's also hitting a limit and being like, yeah, like I could, like I know why I wanted to do this, and I did this to optimize and make the most out of it. But when it's not nourishing, you just got to shut it down.
Yeah,
and it's tough. It's ego death. It's painful. It's everything. But it's so much better on the other side. Like just do less, advice. Enjoy more. And you don't get to do that if you're always trying to make the most of it.
Yeah. I mean, all we have for the most part is our experience. What about your experience would you offer to somebody else that's like helped you get to that kind of level of maturity? I think that, I'm just, maybe the best way to advocate for the listener is to like share my experience. It's like, I often am the type of person who, they say, if you start reading a book that you don't like, just stop reading it and get your life back. I don't have that ability. I'm going to finish the shitty book and work through it. And I think that that's just like an underdeveloped younger part of me, of like white knuckling through things. Yeah. I think that you have really stepped into this like kind of elevated space in some ways. Not to say that you're done progressing, but what's it look like from a like boots on the ground perspective there? I mean, and just to like share observations of you, it's like I see you having intentional, dedicated time for things that are easy to not make time for, these movement practices and these breathwork things. And has that been a big driver in your ability to like see the forest for the trees on some of these things? Or, if you're coaching somebody else in your shoes, how do you do that?
Yeah. I mean, like, and fortunately I love coaching. I love mentoring. I love, like that's a huge part of the reason why I do what I do. Yeah. But you can never like, you can never teach somebody something that they can't learn themselves, So like, I think it's important to just be like, hey, if that sounds good to you, try it. But like, keep in mind this, right? And often this is just, bring a reminder with you of where you're coming from. Like I think go out and open all the things, do all the things, try all the things. But if it becomes too much and you're reaching the point of the juice is not worth the squeeze, burnout, et cetera, you just got to remember why you got there in the first place and like go back to square one. Because it's easy how to explain this? Like, you got to let people test their own limits and encourage them to. And hopefully with some mentorship, you can like be safe. So I think like having people to look up to and people to ask questions to, if you're going to push yourself to a limit or if you're going to try something new, is the most important thing. Like have 2 to 3 people that you call like once a week, twice a month. And you're like, hey, like, what am I thinking? What am I doing? What, give me your perspective on this. And you don't always need to take their feedback, but like you need those people in your life. You need like those 2 to 3 mentors who you actually look up to, who you can have real talks with as you're going through what will be some of the toughest times in your life,
Yeah, it's helpful. I like to ask this question to anybody who's an employer, not necessarily like for the X's and O's of employment, but I think that the heavy, rigorous burden of writing checks for people does invite a lot of best practices. It invites a lot of wisdom around this. So anybody who's listening could maybe listen to your answer to this from the perspective of I'm just a person in the world who is trying to create value or needs to get hired somewhere or whatever. Or they could listen to it more straightforward from the perspective of, oh, I'm a leader of some sort and I have a team. But, you know, I observe in your restaurants like really quality people. What, if anything, do you think about from like a hiring perspective? Like, do you index really high on skills? Are you more soft skills? Is there a sort of process that's there? Yeah. Like for you, what's a great team member to add? How do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think in contrast, like a lot of folks for necessity or because of restriction or just because they think it's the right thing to do, hire for a position. I need a busser. I need a coach. I need to go out and find this. And my perspective has always been, whether I was just, you know, an employee manager or an owner, I'm going to look out for really great people with a sparkle in their eye and like an ability to be multifaceted. And then I'm going to craft a role for them where I can see them having growth. I think when you hire for a position, you not only are limiting that person to a pretty like simple box, but you're also often putting a end date on it when you start. Does that make sense? Like, yeah, it does make sense. Like your only chance for growth is if you gain a new position.
Right.
And so I think, just viewing it as like, you know, I have some very lovely people that work with me now. And a couple of them have never really worked in restaurants before, or like would not be a server normally, would not be a cook in a restaurant, but are just fantastic people who are smart and physically capable and motivated and get the mission. And so I'd always rather take somebody, you know, who is just knows how to work and knows how to apply themselves and just wants some growth and create like a growth plan for them that is outside of like, anyway. So I build teams around people that I like rather than trying to fill a team with the right person.
Yeah, that's super strong. Yeah. I just hearing you say that, I mean, I'm sure there's lots of people who genuinely hate working with me, for me, whatever, but you know, some people might like it.
I understand.
I think that there's a paradox there, right? I think the espoused value of tell me my role. Am I a busser? Am I full time or am I part? It's almost like the espoused value is clarity, which I think is generally good, right? The shadow of it is a box that has things outside of it that relinquish responsibility.
Yeah.
When you're sort of just
this is a great conversation.
Hey, you're just like, I kind of want you to like be great and try your best and like step towards what we would call leadership, like being accountable to the results of like what's present. You know what I mean? Like, silly example, but you know, if there's a pipe leaking on the floor and there's water on the floor, like maybe that doesn't lie in any of the names of the jobs in the place, but like it's fucking water on the floor. Like, you know what I mean? Like grab them up, you know what I mean? And so some of that is the shadow is like, hey, in leadership, there is a, I don't want to say a catch-all, but a more dynamic potential. And so in, you know, to return to what you said about creating roles, it's like I've had people come from a more, call it like corporate background where they're like, you know, in how many months, days, weeks, hours do I get to the next thing? Yeah. And I'm sort of just like, what are you willing to take responsibility for? And we can make a role around that.
Right.
And you know what I mean?
I've always said, like there are 4 choices in life. Okay. You can be an employee or you can run a business. You can run a cult or you can be in a cult. Those are pretty much the 4 options.
Where are we now?
And, you know, at the end of the day, cults are not very fair
Yeah.
Like there's not a lot of legal protections there. They can do a lot. Like they really like move things faster.
Yeah. 15 classes a day.
But but they're not very fair. And so like I think what you're talking about is, you know, you have a choice. Like, am I gonna be an employee and like have someone else kind of create the job description, the role, the boundaries, the, like where the task stops and where the task starts is defined for me, or you're also just a human. Like you guys are equal. You're just two humans, right? Like just because you're an employer doesn't mean you're actually like anything, right? Thing, but you're both humans and you're both playing this cosplay game of like, this person defines when I stop and start, and I'm the one defining when you stop and start. So there's like literally as many ways to do it as there are people, right? But in working in the legal framework of actual like state, you know, rules, you have some boundaries, which as we discussed, like limits are good. So it's like, let's work within the limits. And then let's like consider this task of like, we get to define when something's a task starts and when it stops. So I think really the goal is you just like hiring and being in a workplace where everybody more or less like is okay with those definitions of tasks starting and stopping. And, you know, in your case, like the corporate coach or, you know, whatever had those things like so well defined for them that they didn't have to think about it. And for some people that works perfectly fine. And like, please enjoy that. Some people are just more creative naturally, or like, I want to like step more into leadership. And I think leadership also includes like leading yourself, right? Like, it's like, if I notice somebody's desire to step into more of themselves, it's like, I'm not going to get in the way of that. Like, go, you know? And of course, sometimes that means that like, you got to watch people like fuck up on their own and that you can't change that. But I'd rather do that than do the corporate thing where like there's less creativity, less freedom in that.
And that's a choice you've made over and over again. You know? Yeah, it's a good call out. I think that folks run into trouble when they say they want one thing but aren't, you know, stepping into that. So there's a lot of people who want like employee type assurances and entrepreneurial type freedoms.
Right.
It's just not that's just not a thing.
Yeah, the entrepreneurial freedoms are not free and they come at a cost that is not quantifiable.
Yeah, it's like an everyday choice. You know, I was talking about this concept, the hiding hand principle. Like, it's the thing that I reference it in my book because I think it's true for any long, difficult path. It could be true for starting a business. It could be true for getting a black belt in something. But essentially what it means is you're benefiting from the ignorance of the totality of the effort. So how is it explained by the economist who created it? The case study was like this group, this company of miners, so drilling a mine shaft into a mountain. And so like any company, they would do some planning. Oh, it's going to cost this much. It'll take this long. It'll take this type of manpower. It'll be this hard. And then you just start. And then you learn all the ways that you're wrong about that. And at a certain point, when you realize you're over budget and it's taking longer than you thought, and there are challenges that you couldn't foresee, if the mine's supposed to be a mile deep into the mountain and you're a quarter mile deep, you kind of just keep going, you know? And so I think it's important that
to get back to the hiding hand.
That is the principle that because you can't see the full hand that you're being dealt, you are able to endure time, difficulty, adversity that you maybe wouldn't opt in for if you had all that information up front. And I think that it's important as people in positions of leadership or modeling some sort of authority in the world to sort of model the fuller story of the thing. You know, I think there's probably a lot of people who observe you from a distance who maybe aspire to have a restaurant or aspire to have the life that they perceive that you have. But the problem is, from their vantage point, it looks pretty easy. It looks like a straight shot, you know. When you think about looking back, I assume that your path is full of the unforeseen difficulty.
Yeah. I think, especially, first of all, I hope no one thinks that like restaurants are a like relatively easy thing. But
I don't think anybody thinks that like on principle, but not to cut you off, it's like, and I mean this genuinely and as a compliment, like one signal of excellence is the perception of ease. And I don't think people that are around you perceive that like you're managing all the things that you truly are managing.
Thank you.
Thank you. And so and I think that that's true.
Yeah.
And so therein lies a problem when modeling this truer truth.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't say that as like a, hey, let's lock arms and like do a poor me thing or a poor us thing. It's more like, it's important to set the proper model, because any performance, any effort that a human makes is towards a target that they perceive is the target.
Yeah.
And in our industry, I know for a fact, and this is only worse with social media and all the visual examples of what's out there, is that many people are aiming down down the line at a target that is not even the real target. It's not they're impersonating a role that isn't the role.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if you could just provide a little bit of insight into like the other parts of this, the unforeseen challenges of being in leadership like you are.
Yeah. I mean, I think unfortunately you if you really like are going to push and like try to grow, like I got thrown into leadership really young, like, and not like coached all that well through it. It's just like, you're smart, figure it out. Yeah. I think it's really important to do your absolute best to be nice to people. And that sounds obvious, but, your reality as a leader coming up and like, especially if you're creating your own reality, you're not just like a leader in a system that already exists. You have to be like fully prepared every single day for everybody to think that everything you're doing is wrong. And so you have to normally most people, we find people who we want to believe are on our team or like support us or believe it, but if you're not fully actually prepared for like every single person to believe that what you're doing is incorrect, take the safer path. It can be really, really exhausting, mentally, physically, emotionally, like spiritually. Like you have to wake up every day and believe so much in your intuition that you are doing the right thing. That yes, you hope, of course, to inspire people and like get people on your team, energetically. Yeah. But there's no guarantees of that, and it also is not an indicator that like you're doing everything wrong. You just like have to be prepared for for like your worst nightmares to become true. The good news is like once you live through that and come out the other side, there's really nothing to be afraid about anymore. Simple to say, like the most ease comes from living through your worst nightmare and then just still being alive.
Yeah, and like that decision making on your intuition, it's like it's such an interesting idea, because I think that's maybe scary for a lot of people. But it's like the alternative, like what is the alternative? It's like you have to make decisions based on your best opinion about the moment, and that's where you build trust in your own opinion. There's no other. How else would you move through the world?
Yeah, I mean, there's the Nietzschean like uh concept of eternal recurrence, like um riffing on that, like if any one of us could live twice or even live a year twice, we would make such different decisions. Like you would like if you, and I know like there are some out that believe in reincarnation. I'm not the most like in depth in that.
Yeah.
But my belief is that we all live once and we all get to be 5 or 35 or 65 for that one day only once. um so in that day you can either make the decision based on someone before you who's completely unlike you and lives at a completely different time. Like every day is a completely new thing. Like they're not related. What your older brother or mentor or whatever, what they did in that similar circumstance probably wasn't similar at all.
It's interesting.
I mean, like we can draw like between the dots and like make it look like it's similar, but that moment has never happened before. And so like we look to mentors, we look to examples, we look to history for like hopefully some like guide work or framework. Um, but it's really important to trust your intuition and your feeling on something more than the past. Because the past was just a totally different time.
That's really
It's not related.
So is it a business or a cult that you're running?
I really like the legal nature of the business side of it.
Respect. Shout out to legalities.
Yeah.
I'm always curious about progression, and so the way we're getting kind of closer to the end here.
Sure.
Anything you've changed your mind about in the last 5-10 years in your progression? I think that it's a helpful thing to talk about, helpful thing to model. I remember being so passionate about certain dogmas early on that are only broken through a higher level of mastery, not the opposite. And so, anything like it could be as specific as culinary stuff or more esoteric stuff. But what have you changed your mind about recently?
I mean, fuck, like in the last 5 years, literally everything. But I mean, pretty much like I think like a lot of us going through the pandemic, going through like recent times, like what the expectations that we had in 2019 have gone through a really turbulent ride. I think it's almost easier to name that. Like one thing that for sure I haven't changed my mind about is that like you need to eat good ingredients that comes from good soil that is doing good things for the earth. Other than that, like how you get there, how you live your life, like what I think like for example, I think most of us have at this point realized that like taking care of yourself probably looks differently than what you used to think it did. And so I think respecting how we're like growing in this age right now of kind of I'm seeing a big movement away from putting work as a priority. And that is very different from kind of like the culture and upbringing that I had, like where it's like, if I work hard, then I will get to this result.
Right.
And we're seeing a shift away from that. And so there's part of you that wants to get like frustrated and be like, oh, well, it's like, I worked this hard to get to this point. Why aren't you trying? And so I think there's, it's really important to just be open to shifting cultures and perspectives and not have to impose how you felt 10 years ago when you were coming up on someone else who's now, right? Yeah. I think it's very easy to get frustrated in that process.
I definitely do that.
I think we all do. I do that a lot. And I just have to catch myself and be like, all right, this is a different time. This is a different era. Like, this is actually unrelated to my journey. So how do we work with this new kind of information, this new kind of cultural zeitgeist that we're in, where preservation is of greater value than work. And how do we still like work within the legal like frameworks that we have, like providing work, showing up for work? Like, how do we like have an agreement around like how that works? Because we're all stuck in it because we all got to pay rent. So how do we like do that in a more symbiotic and holistic way that like allows more humanity in the process?
Yeah.
I think that's like been a big shift, you know. And I think again, like coming up, it was like you work hard, you're professional at work, you leave the rest of us at the door, you bust your butt to get to the position that you want to be at. And just there's still, you know, people like that, but it's not the zeitgeist anymore.
There's more transcendence to wholeness, which is reflected in some of the models that we talk about here.
Yeah.
You know, being the whole person at work is a higher level of being organizationally that I think is aspirational. It's hard though. I mean, and I say this as a person who, in, you know, whatever, I can advocate for myself and make us sound cool, but it's like, you know, we do a lot of cool stuff here, like as for employees, you know, and with medical coverage and retirement and just stuff that industry doesn't typically support. And I think that one of the challenges of expressing yourself in more wholeness as an employer is margins are already tight. You know? They were tight before, and you know,
it's not getting any better.
It's not getting better. So it's tough.
Yeah, I see the conversation also around like allowing more wholeness, allowing more the whole human. Not allowing is not a great word. I don't love that. Like they are a whole human. Like we're just interacting with more of it. But there's also obviously that can go to an extreme, and you know, professionalism is there for a reason. Like leaving, like we're all capable of crazy things. We're all individual humans. We're all like fucking, you know, smart monkeys with souls in us that can like rip things apart. Like we're all like so like not all of you needs to show up to work like all the time. Right. So there is a real beauty to the nature of professionalism that says like I'm gonna show up. If I am showing up for work, I'm gonna show up in a way that is not bringing. I'm leaving some things at the door, in order to be fair to everybody, because if it, you know, that way it's not a contest for who's feeling the most sad or who's feeling the most, you know, like whatever. Like professionalism is a really good, healthy, beautiful thing when, you know, cultivated appropriately.
Yeah, it's a practice like anything else. You know. Last question I want to ask is mostly because I'm just not a great interviewer, but I would imagine
you've been doing a great job.
Yeah, well, fuck, I don't know.
I'm impressed.
So, like, I'm sure doing media is a part of the job at different points. People who are food writers and critics and different publications, you know, you're in the conversation with them, and I would imagine that's fine. And maybe a lot of those conversations leave some to be desired. Maybe they're repetitive or whatever. What are the kinds of things you wish they would ask about that they don't?
I
mean, obviously it's like, explain dry aged fish, please.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, and it's a tough one. I mean, I think we fortunately are having more conversations around the wholeness of the, you know, employer-employee experience. We are having conversations about like, you know, appropriate time off and just like you know, making sure that conversation is being had, which I think is great. I do wish we would talk more about, and I wish that we would like really put some more love into ingredients or where they come from. I know that sounds simple, but it's so easy to get caught up in the buzzwords, in the sexiness of someone's Instagram or whatever, and where it's so easy in this day and age to project an image that is hitting all the right notes.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like, all I really care about is, like there's a big difference between like broccolini that was grown on like a rotational farm locally that came to you, not, never got in a plane, versus like earthbound organic stuff that you find at Whole Foods or Alps or whatever. Like the nutritional value in those two things is like so different for your body. And it's really like the nutritional value to you is important, but the responsibility of maintaining good soil that has and continues to have good nutrients for the future, really, I feel like gets put in the back seat a lot, because we focus so much on image, aesthetic, who's doing what, and like, yeah, that's a sexy looking burger, or like this is a great looking tasting menu, but like, what is the carbon footprint of what you're doing? Like, I know it's not like a perfect metric, but like, the amount of hands between the diner and the soil, or the diner and the ocean, or the like that is something that like I wish we were all sorry, we're going back to counting, right? But like, yeah, that's something that like I think farm to table has just been around for so long that like the it's almost become meaningless to most, and like
anything's a farm if you try hard enough.
Yeah, or like you can have garnishes that come from the farmer's market while you're buying other stuff elsewhere. I mean, if we could like truly get a meaningful like people to like really understand and ask for like, is this actually from a local farmer's market? Like how can we like better feed ourselves with what's around us, rather than continue to support like the global industrial complex that flies stuff in and out of everywhere. For me, like the easiest answer locally that like feels important is fish, but it's really like all of it. Like just knowing how far away your food is from is something that we need to talk about more in restaurants and restaurant menus, but also like everywhere, like just across the board. I think we don't do enough service.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Thank you for having this conversation. Are there places you can tell kind of the audience to go eat your food and follow along with what you're doing?
Would love to have all of y'all at Crudo and Nudo on Main Street. And we got some exciting partnerships, collabs, and everything that will be broadcast either through our newsletter or through our website. So just take a look at that. And then, some very exciting developments to come this summer, next couple of months. Keep your eyes peeled.
Awesome.
Thank you, buddy.
Yeah,
dude, thank you so much. You did such a great job.
Yeah.
It's natural.
I don't know. Dude, blacked out.
Cheers.
All right. Thank you to Chef Brian for dropping knowledge on here. I'm still chuckling and wondering if I'm running a cult or not. Maybe we'll never know. I admire Chef Brian's daily and weekly commitments to nourishing himself. I literally see it every week. He plans and defends his well-being in a way that means his business, his friends, family, and anything else he touches will benefit from. And that's a lesson for all of us. Okay, next episode is a special flashback. Okay, this group conversation, no typo, this group conversation comes from season 1. So remember, this material only has been presented in a highly edited, kind of chopped up way in season 1. But this episode was recorded like midday, right before the Going Right book launch party in my living room in Venice. The group included former gymnast, author, and coach Carl Paoli, former UFC fighter, actor, and entrepreneur Tate Fletcher, and developmental psychologist and consultant Dr. Kara Miller. It's a fire hose of wisdom, so don't miss it.
It's one of the problems of being in an outcome mindset, though, right? Like I'm results oriented and I fucking cripple myself. At a certain point, there's not enough, right? Yeah. And then you got to let go of it all. and then the world can flood through you again.
Right, but you need to have some kind of outcome deadline to shoot for.
Yeah, no. You got to have a goal.
The tension. Yeah.
You got to have a point on the compass.
Yeah.
And be willing to quit if that thing's not moving.
And then I always throw the point now. Sure. I throw the point now, and I would know that's not really where I intend to go. This is a general good direction. And so then I head there open to all the tributaries that may come, right?
Right.
Because I don't clearly know what's best for my life. I mean, if I had have plotted it out, as a young person would be horrible, but even as like a 25-year-old or 30-year-old or 30, like it's insane. All the things that if they had worked out, I would have burned myself.